Back in 1974, there was a star high school football player, a running back from a tiny little town called Hooks, Texas, in the northeast corner of the state, very remote. Barry Switzer, who was the coach of Oklahoma Sooners at the time, wanted this young man very badly. The young man's name was Billy Sims. Billy Sims was ultra talented, and all of these schools around the whole country were chasing this guy. But it ultimately came down to Oklahoma and Texas, the Sooners and the Longhorns. And if you know anything about football, you know that those two schools are bitter rivals. Any Oklahomans and Texans in the audience here? Okay, yeah, you guys know. You're all like nodding your head. Oh, yeah, I hate them. Okay, at any rate, vicious battle, all right? And Barry Switzer was doing whatever it took. In fact, he was going down, this is what he'd do. They didn't have all these restrictions on head coaches visiting back in the 70s. A lot of times after practice in Norman, Oklahoma, he'd get on a private jet. He'd fly 300 miles to the south, spend the whole evening with Billy Sims and his family. He would make dinner for them. He would help him with his homework. He would clean the dishes. He literally sometimes tucked Billy into bed. And then he would go to the Hooks, Texas airport, get on his private jet, fly back to Norman, Oklahoma, do his workday again, come back and do the same thing the next night. But it still wasn't enough. He kept teetering between Texas and Oklahoma. And part of the problem was he had built the relationship depth chart with both simultaneously. He was at trust with both Texas and Oklahoma. Well, there was this one little trick that college coaches used to do, and I think they still do to this day. They always have a list of star players that they're trying to recruit. And before a big game, or any game for that matter, they call those players. Maybe they sit in their hotel room if it's an away game 3 hours before kickoff, and they've got this list. Coach picks up the phone, he dials the phone, says, "Hey, Billy, it's Coach Switzer. I'm here in South Bend, Indiana. We're getting ready to play Notre Dame, but all I'm thinking about is you, Billy, and how much I wish you were on my team right now." And the players like it, but they know it's complete and total BS. You want to know why? They get the same call from every other coach. "We're here in such and such. All I'm thinking about is you." Well, Coach Switzer did that, and Billy Sims was one of his key phone call targets, but it wasn't enough. One day, Oklahoma was in Colorado playing the University of Colorado Buffaloes, and at halftime, OU was winning 28-0. 28-0. Coach Switzer was kind of a cocky guy, and so when he's leading 28-0, not a care in the world. He walked in that locker room and was just kind of relax over halftime, but then on the wall, he sees a payphone. Remember, it's 1974, no cell phones, right? He sees a payphone. He gets a wad of dimes and stuffs that phone, and he calls the Conoco gas station near Hooks, Texas, where he knew Billy Sims had a Saturday job. The manager, Joe, answers, and Switzer knew Joe because as a good recruiter, he knew all the people who influenced the life of his star recruit. Joe answers the phone. He says, "It's Coach, I want to talk to Billy." Billy was pumping gas. Remember in the 70s, the gas pumpers? He was doing that. And so he goes in, he says, "Coach, you're supposed to be in Colorado. What are you calling me for?" And Coach Switzer says, "You listening on the radio?" And Sims says, "Yeah, I am." Coach Switzer says, "Then you know it's halftime, and all I'm doing is thinking about you and how much I wish you were on the team right now." And then Coach Barry Switzer made sure he talked to Sims for the whole halftime period. He wanted him to know the whole halftime period so long that the referee comes into the locker room and bumps Coach Switzer on the shoulder and says, "You get your team out on the field or you're going to forfeit this game." So Coach Switzer says to the phone, "You just heard the ref, Billy. I got to go finish this ass whipping. But when we come back here in 2 years, you're going to be a part of it and on my team." And that was probably, according to Coach Switzer, the thing that knocked him over the edge to get him to go to Oklahoma. And he did. He became a Heisman Trophy winner, went on to the NFL. And if you go to the University of Oklahoma campus today, you will find a life-sized bronze statue of Billy Sims on the quad.